Someone stops beside your desk. They tell you what went wrong for 4 minutes and then they walk off lighter. Their panic ended when they walked away. Yours is still going. This has a name: personal distress. Watching someone suffer can trigger a second feeling that is entirely about you, and it feels exactly like caring. You think that is empathy. It isn't. Empathy is something else, and it doesn't leave you like this. There is one more thing buried in here, and it decides something you'd never guess. Whether this feeling makes you help that person or quietly makes you avoid them. One experiment separates those two, and it is the reason this video exists. 6 minutes on a Thursday, and you can watch the whole thing happen. Minute 1, he says the word fired and something arrives in your chest before any thought does. Not sympathy, faster than that and more physical. Minute 2, you are saying the right things. You are also underneath running a quiet calculation about your own job, your own boss, your own last performance review. Minute 4, your jaw is tight. He is talking freely now because you are good at this, and every sentence he puts down lands somewhere in you and stays there. Minute 6, he laughs, says thanks, opens his laptop. It's over for him. He got what he came for. You go to the bathroom and stand there a while, and you couldn't say why. 3 days later, he asks if you want to get lunch and talk it through properly. Nothing about his situation has changed. You tell him you are slammed this week. You're not slammed. One of those two feelings helps. A paper from 1987 shows which. Daniel Batson, working with Jim Fultz and Patricia Schoenraid, published an argument in the Journal of Personality. When you watch another person in trouble, you do not have one emotional reaction, you have two, and they are not two doses of the same thing, they are different states. The first he called empathic concern. The words people reach for are sympathetic, moved, compassionate, tender, soft-hearted. Every one of those points outward at the other person. The second he called personal distress. The words people reach for are alarmed, upset, worried, disturbed, troubled. Look at where those point, inward at you. That is the whole distinction. Both are triggered by the same event, both feel like they are about the other person, only one of them is. You'd expect a claim like that to fall apart under attack. It didn't. Jim Fultz, Mark Schaller and Robert Cialdini set out in 1988 to prove Batson had the motivation story wrong. Their own analysis found the same split. The people who wanted the distinction gone confirmed it instead. Which brings you to the experiment. 1981, Batson with Bruce Duncan, Paula Ackerman, Therese Buckley and Kimberly Birch. 44 female college students, one at a time, watch another young woman receive electric shocks. Then each is offered a choice. She can take the remaining shocks herself. And here is the piece that turns a sad scene into an experiment. Half were told that if they declined, they would have to keep watching. The other half were told that if they declined, they could leave immediately. Difficult escape, easy escape. That single difference is a machine for reading a mind. If your feeling is genuinely about her, an open door shouldn't matter. She is being shocked either way. But if your feeling is about your own discomfort, an open door isn't a moral question. It is an exit. Here is what happened, and nobody tells you this part about being a person who feels everything. When escape was difficult, the distressed participants helped. Helping was the only way to make the feeling stop. When escape was easy, they helped less. They left. And the people running on empathic concern helped at the same high rate whether the door was open or closed, because the door was never the point. Sit with what that means. The feeling you carry as proof that you care too much is, in the literature, the feeling that predicts leaving. It is why you told him you were slammed, not because you stopped caring, because you had a feeling that hurt, and the cheapest way to end a feeling that hurts is to remove yourself from whatever started it. You haven't been absorbing other people, you have been withdrawing from them and calling it exhaustion. This isn't childhood damage, it is how the machine is built. Plenty of videos about this feeling will tell you it is a wound, that you learned to scan the room as a child because the room was unsafe. For a specific person that is sometimes true, it isn't the explanation for the feeling itself. The feeling is standard equipment. Your brain doesn't have a separate department for other people. It reads their states by running them on the hardware it uses for yours. When you watch someone in pain, regions that process your own pain come online. That's not a metaphor, that's a measurement. Which creates an obvious problem. If one set of equipment produces both signals, the signal arrives without a label. Whose feeling is this? That question doesn't answer itself. It's a second step run by separate machinery. In 2013, Georgia Solani, Klaus Lamb, Christian Ruff, and Tania Singer found the part that runs it. A region called the right supramarginal gyrus, tested across one behavioral experiment and two independent brain imaging experiments. And they found something more useful than its name. They found the exact condition under which it fails, not fatigue, not how much you care, something you do dozens of times a day without noticing, and certainly what you did in minute 1. Before the fix, defend the design, because the design isn't stupid. A walled-off second system for other people would need a second copy of everything. A second pain system, a second fear system built and fed for a lifetime. One set of machinery doing both jobs is far cheaper, and it buys something no separate system could. Immediacy. You don't calculate that the man across from you is scared, you feel a version of it before you can think. That speed is the entire point of the design. It's also precisely its cost. Speed means the label arrives late. So go back to minute 1. He says the word fired, and you, being a decent person, do what you have been told to do your whole life. You put yourself in his shoes, you imagine how you'd feel if it were your job on the line. Read that again. If you have just fed your own system a scenario starring yourself, your heart rate is not responding to his situation. It is responding to a simulation of yours, and the label never gets applied because you never gave the labeling step a chance to run. Which is exactly what Solani's team found. The correction fails under speed. When people judged quickly, the mechanism stopped working and their reading of the other person collapsed back into their own. There is the condition, not caring too much, answering too fast. And it explains why the most common advice you have ever been given about other people is the advice making you ill. In 1997, Batson ran it with Shannon Early and Giovanni Salvarani. Students listened to a radio interview with a young woman in serious need. One group was told to stay objective. One was told to imagine how she felt. One was told to imagine how they would feel in her place. Imagine other-produced concern. Imagine self-produced concern and distress on top of it. Put yourself in their shoes is an instruction to manufacture the thing that is draining you. Which means tonight you can change one word and watch what happens. Start with the name. When you sit with someone's bad news and end up worse off than they are, that isn't a measure of how much you love them. That is personal distress, a self-focused emotion in the costume of a generous one. Then run the diagnostic. It takes a minute. Think of the last conversation that flattened you, describe it out loud in 3 sentences, then listen to the subject of each one. If you hear I felt awful, I couldn't stop thinking about it, I was wrecked, the person you were tracking was you. If you hear she is overwhelmed, he has been carrying this for months, you were tracking them. Batson's own word lists are the checklist. Alarmed, upset, worried, troubled, point inward. Sympathetic, moved, tender, point outward, count which set you reach for. Then 3 moves, each from a study you just heard. 1. Change the sentence in your head from what would this be like for me to what is this like for her. That is the 1997 manipulation, and it is one word. Said honestly, a recent meta-analysis found these imagine instructions don't reliably raise concern above no instruction at all, though telling people to stay detached clearly lowers it. The direction holds, a boost doesn't. 2. Don't answer immediately. The mechanism that separates you from them degrades under speed. 3 seconds of silence isn't rudeness, it's the labeling step finishing. 3. When you feel it starting, stop resonating and start wishing. Kleimke, Leiberg, Rickard, and Singer in 2014 trained one group in empathic resonance and watched negative feeling rise. Then they trained the same people in compassion, actively wishing others well rather than feeling with them, and the negative feeling came back down. One honest warning, all 3 will make you feel like a worse friend for about 2 weeks. Warmth without the crash reads from the inside as coldness. It isn't, it's the version of you still saying yes to lunch. Someone will stop beside your desk this week. They will tell you what went wrong, then walk off lighter, and you'll still be sitting there. Only now you know what belongs in that gap, not less feeling, a label. Whose is this? Ask it out loud if you have to. It takes 3 seconds, and it is the entire distance between the person who cares about people and the person who slowly stops answering them.